On the battlefield. He promised you would come back. But as the gunfire erupted, his figure vanished into the smoke. Can I wait for his safe return? Chapter 34. Battlefield and bodies there about an hour away. Lucas communicated to everyone in the Ness parents' house. One of our werewolf was keeping a lookout in the forest in a camouflaged location. That way the hunters wouldn't be able to find him and he would be able to tell us their estimated time of arrival. Kurt, the Ness family, Bailey, Lucas, Thane and I were all in the Ness parents' house while everyone else went to the field where Thane and got married since it was the closest area in the forest to Fairburn, the area in which the hunters were headed. Bailey, the Ness mother and younger brothers, all elders, children and pregnant women, including myself, were to stay in the house where it would be safe for us. I wanted to fight Thanomat and go to the battlefield, but I knew my presence would be more destructive than productive. I saw the Ness parents step outside and Bailey and Lucas take a moment to themselves before our mates went off to war. Caroline and Delilah were both fighting, so I hadn't seen them in days, but I prayed to the moon goddess for everyone's safety. I got up from the sofa and walked to Thane, who stood with a poker face at the front door. "It'll be fine," he assured me before I could say anything. I gave him a small smile before I wrapped my arms around his back. "Promise me that you'll come back to me." "I promise, love. We have our entire lives ahead of us," he whispered in my ear. I pulled away and cupped his cheeks. "You better not break your promise, Alpha, because our kid and myself will be waiting for you." He grinned at me and bent to my stomach and spoke to our baby. "Tell your mom that he'll be fine. Will you, kid?" I laughed at a precious scene and pulled Thane back to his full height and kissed him. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "I love you more," he swore before placing a kiss on my forehead. "Not possible, but I will let it slide for now," I murmured. "Oh, trust me, love. It's very possible." Emotions overcame me and I knew Thane was projecting his love through our mate bond. He placed his forehead against my own and we stood wrapped in each other's arms before the war began. "When you get back," my voice broke as I started, "and you get some rest, we'll start planning the nursery for our little P. In thinking a space theme, Thane chuckles as we opened our eyes to look at each other. In thinking an animal theme, with wolves as the main feature. I like that. We'll paint our little wolf family on the walls. It will be perfect." I grinned. Thane sigh in contentment. "I could already see our little boy in your arms. He'll have my hair and your beautiful green eyes." I shook my head. "No, he'll be the spitting image of you. Little Thane Jr. Told you it's a great name." He smiled smugly. "I would agree with you, babe. But I'm afraid we would both be wrong." I pecked his cheek as the front door opened and Aunt stepped inside with a sorrowful expression which brought me back to the present. "Baby talk would have to wait for now. Your father left," she mumbled, and I could tell she was as scared as I was. "We will all be fine, Mum." Thane tried to comfort her with a hug. "You better ensure that, Thane," she said before she pulled away from the hug. "Take care of our pack, son." "I will, Mom. You have my word," Thane pledged. "But take care of yourself as well. You have a wife and child to protect now too," and looked at me with a sad smile. "They're my world. I wouldn't let anything happen to them," Thane asserted as he gazed at me with such intensity and honesty, and glanced between the both of us before she walked off to the kitchen. As I looked back to Thane, I could see him growing more worried by the second, so I took his hand in mine. "Let me help you get ready." I grabbed his bulletproof gear and led him outside. Before he shifted, I pulled his face to mine and joined our lips in one last passionate kiss. I poured my heart into it and every single ounce of love that I felt for this man. He reciprocated tenfold as if this was our last kiss ever. And it could be. And that scared me. As I pulled away to catch my breath, Thane placed one last kiss on my forehead as a single tear slid down my cheek. His thumb wiped it off my face. "Smile for me, love." He lifted my head so that he could have a good look at me. "What if I can't?" I murmured. He remained silent for a moment before he thought it over. "Remember the night of the ritual, when I took you to the waterfall and you had no idea who I was?" He wondered. I remembered it as it was yesterday. "Then you must remember the first connection we made." He mused as I looked at him in confusion. The first physical connection. He clarified. I played the night over in my mind and smiled from ear to ear when I remembered what he was talking about. The first time we actually touched. I need you in the balls. I grinned proudly. That you did. He beamed down at me. There's that beautiful smile of yours. That's what will get me through this battle. I nodded. You better get through it, balls of steel. He chuckled as I stepped back and let him shift in his wolf. In an instant he was covered in his black fur and his gleaming red eyes pierced my soul. I grabbed the armor and placed it on his back and attached all the straps to ensure it didn't fall off during battle. When I was finished strapping him in, he positioned himself in front of me and nuzzled his nose between my shoulder and neck, where his mark laid, before licking it. EWWW, you're so gross. I crinkled my nose even though the gesture was to symbolize our bond. He made a sound like he was laughing and his teeth was bared in a grin, but it looked more scary than cute. See you later, sweetheart. Thane mind-linked me as he backed away. I love you. I mind-linked him. I love you, Emery. I looked on as he quickly dashed away from the house and towards the battlefield as it felt like he was leaving me forever. Then SBOV I stood on all four of my paws in the front line of my pack of werewolf warriors. There were around 400 of us since there were a lot of children and elders in the pack who cowled and fight. We were all gathered on one side of the forest with me in front and center while Lucas was to my right and Bo to my left. Everyone was covered with their bulletproof vests, but hopefully the hunters weren't good at aiming since our legs and heads weren't covered. As we waited for the hunters to show up, I cowled and helped but be consumed in my feeling to protect Emery and our child. Even though I was an alpha, I should be concerned about the entire pack. Which I was. My wolf mainly focused on keeping Emery alive and out of Jake's hands. I haven't even met the guy and I hated his guts more than anyone I had ever met. And I have met some extremely vile creatures in my life. As my thoughts ran on him, my wolf's or Ed, I've never craved to see someone's blood as I did his. The thought alone of him alive was making my wolf anxious and uneasy. It felt like the closer the hunters got, the more hostile my wolf felt. Like music to my wolf's ears, I heard the sound of leaves rustling and branches breaking under the footsteps of the hunters. I heard their human hearts beating. Some were at ease. Others were erratic at what they might find as they entered the clearing. Everyone around me heard them. A few of my pack members let out low, viscous growls of anger and disdain for the humans. I kept my eyes opened and my mind focused for them. They were here. Around 100 or more humans, all filtered out of the forest with guns strapped to their chests. They all held a flabbergasted expression at seeing us. After looking for us for centuries, they finally found us. Their beast. I could practically smell the fear radiating off of them as they all sized us up. I heard the click of a gun and my head zoned in on one young boy who had his gun raised and aimed at Lucas. I let out a fierce growl just as the man who led them raised his hand and lowered the boy's gun. The leader, who I suspect is the infamous Jake, had a huge smirk plastered on his face as if he already defeated us. Not yet. I heard Jake scold the boy before he turned back to us. Well, this is some welcome, dogs. They all snickered as if using the term dogs was the most clever joke they had ever told. And to be quite honest, it may just be the only joke they knew considering they didn't start off with something a little more clever. I just bared my teeth and snarled at him. As you probably already guessed, Jake, the guy who practically taught your little kidnapped victim all she knows about a man. And his body. He smirked at me as I felt my blood boil. I let out the loudest growl that I could manage and leapt to attack him, but Lucas and Bo blocked my move. Achius just trying to rile you up so he could take you down easier. Bo mind-linked to me and I knew he was right, so I tried to find a sliver of calm in myself. But goddamn if I want to kill him for talking about Emery like that. The voice of a human whispering to Jake caught my attention. It understands what we're saying. The young boy who wanted to shoot Lucas asked. Jake just grinned in my direction as if he knew I could hear him, which he probably did know. I told you guys, they're werewolves. They can understand everything we say. They can ever hear us if we whisper. Quiet, fascinating creatures if you ask me, but they shouldn't even exist. A rumble of agreement from the humans echoed the clearing at Jake's last sentence. You were right. The boy looked at Jake as if he were Christopher Columbus and he just discovered the Western world. But he was Jake, whatever his last name was, who discovered our werewolf secret, also known as the same Jake who I was about to tear to pieces. You know, this one-sided communication thing isn't really fun for me, so why don't you shift alpha? Jake goaded me on. When he saw that no one was going to comply with his wishes, he sighed. Well, I guess we're going to have to solve our differences the old-fashioned way. He held up his gun. When I'm done with everyone in your pack, they'll be sure to pass their bodies around for show and tell. He aimed his gun straight at my head and pulled the trigger. With my quick reflexes, I shifted my head the right as I hear a loud whimper of pain besides me. Bo got hit instead. The bullet lodged itself into his right shoulder. His wolf quickly dropped to the floor as blood from his wound. A loud growl escaped another wolf and knew it was his mate Caroline. Caroline jumped over Ba's body as Dr. Adler rushed a wounded Bo. My eyes shifted to Jake as he smiled to the young boy beside him who lifted his gun and aimed at Caroline, who was dashing across the field. Snapping in action, I sprinted after Caroline. You need to stop, Caroline. I mind-linked to her, and when she didn't stop, I increased my speed and yelled. Now, as the boy's gun clicked, I threw my body against Caroline's and knocked the both of us out the bullet's way. Thank the moon goddess. I raised back to my feet as Jake just shrugged in my direction. You seem to be lucky, dog. Though not for long again. I wanted to run to him and tear his head off, but that would be a stupid move right now. I grabbed Caroline by the scruff of her neck and hauled her up. Get back to your mate and make sure he lives, I commanded her. There was a slim possibility that Bo would live, but she couldn't fight while her mate was in pain or dying. I could practically see the pain eating away at her through her mate bond. Go, Caroline. I nudged her with my snout back towards Bo, who was being carried out of the field by Adler and a few pack members. She hesitated at first, but one look at her dying mate had her scurrying towards him. As I turned back to face the crowd of humans, I snarled at Jake. A few of them cowered back in fear, but most of them looked ready to kill. Come on, you mongrel. Let's fight. He provoked me. A loud shot was fired in the air as the signaling of the beginning of the battle. I let out a ferociously loud growl as the humans all aimed their guns at us. We all ran towards the gleaming silver bullets. The humans all ran towards the bare teeth of my powerful pack. I felt bullets narrowly missing me as it grazed inches away from my coat of fur. My eyes narrowed in on Jake as his face was plastered in a smile and he disappeared into the large group of humans. In no time the two sides collided in a blur of fur, flesh, bullets and blood. The howls of wolves and the screams of humans all filled the clearing as the agonizing sounds bounced off the trees that surrounded us. I tore limbs from any human that came in my way. The taste of their blood covered my mouth. The crimson red fueled my wolf on. Heads were mercilessly ripped off their bodies. Hands and legs were tossed aside. Noses and ears even got caught between my canines at times. I could feel our strength and power in numbers getting the advantage over the humans until I felt it. I felt the pain of someone in the pack dying. I didn't know if it was Bo succumbing to his bullet wound or someone else on the field getting shot. I knew that whoever it was died, but the pain of losing a connection to someone in our pack felt like a knife ripping through us, and I knew everyone in the clearing felt it. That weakened us momentarily, and suddenly it felt like more bullets were raining down on us. That shred of weakness on our part allowed the humans to take that to their advantage and achieve the upper hand. I could basically feel the shift in power as the anger and hatred for the humans fully consumed my wolf, and I let him take over. I roared for everyone to hear as I craved the metal taste of blood. I yearned to smell the rust of blood pouring out from humans, especially Jake's blood. My focus shifted to a man in front of me. Blonde hair and striking blue eyes. Eyes that looked at me menacingly as he raised his gun to aim at my head. Not today, buddy. I ran towards him at full speed, and just as he pulled the trigger, I leapt over him. His bullet flew aimlessly as it missed his target, and I landed behind him on all fours. My canines wrapped around the back of his neck as I tore his head clean off his body. Other humans quickly surrounded me, but I kicked you off with my hind legs before I pounced on the others and teared them apart limb from limb. At that point my fur and bulletproof vest was soaked thread with blood. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Thick substance of human blood stuck to me in an uncomfortable fashion. My eyes raked over everyone in my peripheral vision as I sought out one human. The human whose blood I thirst for the most. Jake. But as I fought off humans, I couldn't see him. He was nowhere in the clearing. He must be retreated back from the fight. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. But what if he went off to find Emery? My wolf felt uneasy at the thought, but there was no way he would be able to find her. She was at least a 20 minutes human walk away from here in my parents' house. Still, the idea bothered me, but my attention was quickly pulled away when I caught sight of my dad. I turned to my right and saw my father's wolf battling to get hold of a gun from a human. Behind him stood the same young boy who aimed at Lucas and Caroline before. But now he aimed at my struggling father. I ran over and jumped over my father and tackled the young boy. He pulled a knife out and sliced my right front leg. Howling at the sudden painful sensation, I placed my teeth to his neck and tore at his throat, which caused a bloody mess. I limped over his body since his blade cut me deep. Just as I was about to turn to my father, I felt another wolf getting shot and heard a loud whimper. I turned to see Emery's friend Ida laying on the grass as blood spilled out of her wolf's head. I felt rage consume me even further. If that was even possible at this point, I sprinted in pain and grabbed onto the hunter's head. Just as I tore off his head, Delilah's eyes closed and someone threw a knife at me. I felt like letting out a string of curses as a fire sensation built up with a knife stuck on my lower back. Just beyond the bulletproof vest, I looked behind me and saw a wolf kill my attacker as I felt blood gushing out from where the knife protruded. I tried to reach the blade with my mouth to pull it out, but unfortunately it was like trying to lick your elbow. Impossible. There was no way for me to pull it out, and everyone else was busy fighting our war, so I staggered on. The blood loss was making me a bit disoriented. With the knife stuck in me, my wound couldn't heal. Beside my injury, I felt the loss of a few of my pack members falling during our battle. No matter who came in my way, I tore them apart. I had to find Jake. I had to protect my pack, my family, Emery's POV. I sat in the large living room in his house with everyone else who wasn't on the field. Everyone looked anxious. The children all looked scared but brave. Thomas and Teddy even wanted to go out and fight, but since they hadn't even shifted yet, they were too young to brawl. My eyes constantly shifted to the clock on the wall as the time ticked by and my legs wouldn't stop shaking. I felt connections being lost through my pack link, but I could tell everyone else was feeling the pain of it through their wolf bond, but I didn't quite feel the pain since I was a werewolf. Every time a pack member died, the pack winced in anguish. I sat between Bailey and an incomplete silence while Jane was helping to assure everyone the field. Even though we all tried to reassure one another, sitting here wasn't helping. I could tell we all felt useless not being able to fight and protect the ones that were fighting for us. Even with all the company, I was on edge. Somehow I felt like something bad was going to happen, but I don't know what. I could feel it in my bones that something was wrong. Call me ominous, but I knew something was off. The probability of the pack winning the battle was high, yet there was a strange feeling of dome building within me. I couldn't shake it no matter what I felt. Everyone sat in silence, not knowing what to say, but all I wanted to do was shout at anything I could. Preferably Jake. Yell at him that he was the biggest idiot I had ever met. And a few colourful words, of course. Something's wrong, I said to Bailey, and she gave me a confused look, as did everyone else in the room. What do you mean? Is the alpha hurt? She asked with trepidation. No. It's just that I have a bad feeling. I can't tell why, but something just isn't right. I explained, and gave my shoulder a gentle squeeze. Everyone will be all right, dear. Just put your trust in them. I do trust that they will win for us. But I just can't shake this feeling. I stammered. Don't stress. It's not good for the baby. And smiled. I'm sure Fame would want you to be at ease and know that he will take care of things. The serenes in her voice didn't really put my mind at ease. But she did have a point. I had to keep our little pea safe. You're right. I sighed to her, not being able to sit in place anymore. I got off the couch. I started to pace back and forth along the length of the room. By the rate I was going at, I might as well create a hole into the ground beneath me. Suddenly I felt a searing pain within me and knew something was wrong with Thane. It didn't feel like he was dying, but he was definitely hurt. And stood up and rushed to me with a worried expression. Dear, are you all right? What's wrong? Then S hurt. I breathed out painfully. And his face contorted into worry as she wrapped her arm around my shoulder and used her other hand to rub my arm in a gesture of comfort. I'm sure he'll be all right, she faltered. Her optimism wasn't exactly helping as another shot of pain hit me. I grabbed onto my stomach in a protective manner as the pain washed over me, and I felt someone else's hand on my arm. Come on, dear. I heard Jane speak as she led me off. Jane. And called back because they made her promise that she kept her eyes on me. We will only be in the kitchen, dear. Jane answered for me and unreluctantly let me go. Jane walked me to the kitchen, and before I could sit down she handed me a key. I looked at the object to see it was the keys to the Jeep. Before I could ask her why she was giving me this, she answered, You have a gut instinct to go to him. How do you know that? I eyed her warily. I could see it in your eyes. You're worried about him. She gave me a curious glance. I shook my head. It's stronger than that. I have this sinister feeling within me, and it's growing every second I sit here. Then S in trouble. I know it. Then don't just stand there, my child. You need to go. She tried to push me out the back door. But I can't. I shook my head because I didn't want to risk Thane or any other wolf getting hurt because of my presence. You can. She gave me a sympathetic look. The moon goddess is sending you a sign, and gut feeling must be important. You need to go to your mate before it's too late. Jane. I can't. I held the keys out to her. What if someone gets her trying to save me? My presence will only be a liability to the pack. I can't put Thane in more danger. I tried to refuse, but she was having it. Your instincts are a part of being Luna. If something were to happen, you will always blame yourself for not going. You will always wonder what if. If the pack needs you, then you need to go to them. She gave a gentle smile before enclosing my open palm over the keys. Go now, dear. It'll distract Anne and the rest of them. Without another word she went back to the living room, and I quickly ran out through the back door as quietly as possible. I sprinted around into the front of the house and got into the Jeep before peeling out of the driveway as I saw Anne ran through the front door with a horrified expression, shaking off the look on her face. I focused on getting to Thane as quickly as possible as the growing feeling of immense fear took over. I stepped on the gas and sped to the clearing with Thane in my heart. Reaching there within a few minutes, I could feel Thane within me throughout my bond. I threw open the door without cutting the engine and jogged through the forest towards the clearing. Then pain consumed me further as I got closer to him. However, the impending danger that was flashing within me was stronger. I stumbled through the last of the trees and into the clearing as I saw the catastrophe before me. It was like witnessing an apocalypse. A deadly. Everything felt as if it was in slow motion as I took into account everything before me. Dead wolves and human bodies littered the grass-covered earth, and the greenery was marred with the dark red color of blood. There weren't much humans left, and the number of wolves decreased from the number that they started with. I overlooked everything in front of me as I felt a sick feeling within me. I stopped in my tracks when I saw an image all too familiar before me. My breath caught in my throat as I looked on. Jake stood to the edge of the forest to my right as he looked at me with a grin. He turned with his gun held up and aimed at a wolf on the opposite side of the forest to me. The wolf was fighting off a few humans. It was a wolf covered in black fur. Something broke within me at the sight, and I dashed across the field as I saw Jake remove the safety from his gun. Thane! I screamed out just as the loud shrill of the gunshot rang out in the air. Chapter 35, Saving My Eyes followed the exact movement of the bullet. It cut through the air and landed right in the shoulder. An area and bot covered by his bulletproof vest. It was an immense sense of déjà vu as the scene before me was an accurate depiction from the nightmares I had been having for all those sleepless nights. I watched as the Wolf whimpered out in agony and his body crumbled to the ground. The pain from the silver bullet that Thane was feeling suddenly ran through me from our mate bond, and I felt like I held breath. It was unbearable, and my body wanted nothing more than to drop to the floor from the sudden wave of excruciating pain. But I howled and stopped. I had to get to him. My breaths were labored as I pulled myself upright and stumbled into the battlefield. By some miracle, all the other wolves on the field saw what just happened to their alpha and spotted me on the field. The energy in the air shifted to complete hostility from our end. The wolves on the field all gave me a look of confirmation as they suddenly switched tactics and protected me from the firing guns. Our pack lined up in somewhat of a line on either sides of me that led to Thane, who was crumpled on the field crying out in pain. The wolves took out any humans who dared to cross my path towards my mate. I trekked across the bloody battlefield, narrowly missing decapitated human bodies and leaping over dead wolves. My white tennis shoes was covered in the brown of the soil and the red of blood. I picked up my pace immensely, but I felt like I was in one of those bad dreams where it feels like the faster you move your legs, the slower you ran. As much as you try, your legs just wouldn't give. With our little pea in my stomach in this first trimester, it would be dangerous to hop on a wolf and reach Thane faster. The speed and bumpiness would surely damage the developing baby. My heart died 1,000 times before I finally dropped beside the wolf body laying on the grass floor. All my senses suddenly rushed back to me, and I was finally consumed with an howls of pain at a silver bullet buried within him. I could practically feel the silver poison burn into his bloodstream and starting to kill him. "It's going to be okay," I choked out through my heavy breathing. He whimpered out in agony as I hurriedly unstrapped the vest of his body. I ripped off one of the straps so that I could stop the blood flow. "We don't." Thane mind-linked me, and I could hear the pain in his voice as his body struggled against my hands. I knew that he knew what I wanted to do, but no amount of pleading on his part was going to stop me. I had to heal him. If not for him, then for me. I fastened the strap around his shoulder blade to stop the blood flow before I noticed the knife sticking out of his back. Before I pulled out the blade, I ripped a piece of my shirt off and another one of the straps off the bulletproof vest. "This is going to hurt, love," I mumbled as I gave him a solemn expression, and when he gave me a wolf nod, I pulled the knife out his back. Thane immediately released a low tortured growl as I placed the piece of my shirt over his wound before wrapping the strap in place to stop the blood loss. I could feel his pain through our bond, and there was nothing I wanted more than to take it all away from him. If I could bear all the pain for the both us, there is nothing I wouldn't to take it away from him. He couldn't fight me off though, because he was in too much pain. Not having any other option, I had to get the bullet out of his shoulder before I healed him, and I prayed to the moon goddess that I had enough time to do so. If I healed him while the bullet was in his body, then I would trap the source of poison and he would die. The only choice was to pull it out of him, so I used my shirt and hands to wipe the pooling blood off from his fur. I moved quickly as I searched for the bullet hole in his flesh. It didn't appear to be lodged in that deep into his flesh, but I knew it would be a struggle for me to get it out, and painful for Thane since in the middle of this battlefield, I did exactly have the correct materials. Unfortunately, the only tool I had was my fingers. "I'm sorry, Thane, but this is going to hurt immensely," I said with caution to him, even though I doubt he could be in any more pain. Saying a quick prayer, I stuck 2 of my fingers into the bullet wound, and his body flinched in agony before tensing up as he let out another howl of pain. I tried to calm him with my voice as I felt around in his shoulder for the bullet. "Once I get this out, you'll be all right." Even though I had stopped the bleeding, a few ounces of blood was flowing out of his shoulder as I felt around. I released a sigh of relief as I finally felt the warm silver bullet buried within his flesh. "Nothing will happen to you," I whispered as my fingers clutched the bullet. "I will have you fixed up in no time." Holding back a gag from having my fingers in his flesh, I dug the bullet out of his shoulder as he growled in agony. The silver bullet was covered in dark red sticky blood as I pulled it out from him and chucked it across the field. I looked back at Thane to see his eyes looking dull and his breathing becoming slow. It was too late. I could feel it within me that Thane was slipping away, and quickly at that. His harsh howls of torment turned into soft whimpers as I placed both my palms on his wound and encouraged as much of my energy into healing him. "Henry, stop it. You're going to kill yourself," he quietly scolded me now. "I'm not letting you die." I shook my head vigorously as I heard footsteps running towards us. "This isn't your time to die. I wouldn't have it. Stop, love. Please," he begged me. I continued to shake my head in disagreement as I felt 2 persons came to a stop behind me. "Luna, you need to stop before you damage yourself and the baby," I heard Adler say behind me. "I can't." I yelled and pressed my hands with all my might against Thane. "Emery, you need to listen to him and stop." And whispered, "I'm strong enough. Our baby is safe and so will Thane be once I heal him." I healed Tate where she was on the brink of death and it barely slowed me down. I was about to give up on my mate now. I tuned them all out after that and focused solely on Thane. He had to live. For our baby. For our pack. My time with him wasn't up yet. We just started our lives together. And he promised he'd come back to me. I pressed on. We had to get through this. "You can't leave me." I mind-linked him. I could barely feel his presence within me. "Take care of yourself and the baby and remember that I love you." He struggled to get in my mind and it felt like something snapped within me when he finished his sentence. It felt as if my powers were coming alive and he was healing. I could feel it within our bond that he was healing. Something was happening. I knew it. The energy was bursting out of me like a metaphorical ray of sunshine. I could save him. A wave of hope washed over me as I smiled when I saw his beautiful red wolf eyes open. He took a deep breath and then exhaled slowly. And that was it. The color and life faded from his eyes as he laid motionless under my palms. I felt a moment of pure confusion as something broke within me. I felt as if half of me was suddenly and harshly ripped out of my soul without remorse. It was indescribable, but the pain inflicted felt like I was being tortured. I felt like I was being burnt alive. "Thane." I shook his body as an attempt to wake him up. "Thane." I shouted at him or at myself. I was sure. No. You can't leave me, damn it." My entire body was in pain. My heart felt like someone lit a fire within it. My soul died. My soul died with Thane. Thane. My mate. He was dead. It felt like 1,000 knives were buried deep within me. But it was more agonizing than that. The pain was indescribable and immeasurable. Everyone said losing your mate was the world's worst pain a werewolf could feel, and I was quickly realizing that that was in the truest words ever spoken. And fell to her knees beside me at the nest body and sobbed at the death of her son. I heard the mournful howls of every wolf on the field as they grieved for their alpha. Alpha Thane Cole Blackwood of the Blood Moon Pack. Adler came to the other side of me and tried to pry me away from my dead mate. "It isn't safe here, Luna. The pack is weakened by the loss of our alpha. It's anyone's winning fight now," he explained as he and Anne both pried my hands away from Nana's body. Emery. Thane would want you and the baby safe. We have to get you out here." And rushed out. I felt weak. Not a bone in my body protested as they hauled me to my feet. Once they started dragging me away from Nana's body, though, I snapped back into reality. They were taking me away from my mate. But I wasn't having it. I wasn't having any of it. Thane was dead. He couldn't be dead. He's the alpha. He's my mate. He's a father. I shoved Adler's and Anna's hands off me as I sprinted back to Thane. I fell to my knees and placed my hands over the S body once more. "No, you can't be dead." I yelled at him. "You can't leave me. You can't leave us." I screamed into the wind. "You can't dare leave the pack behind without you." I raised my head to the sky, and at that moment I didn't know what or who I was looking for. After what just happened, I didn't know if God or the moon goddess or any other great being was up there. But I had to have faith that if anyone was there, they'd help me at that moment. I needed to have faith. I needed them to help me, or else everything was lost. "Please, bring him back and take me instead." I yelled to the sky. "You can't take him away." I felt as if I couldn't catch my breath. The pain was way too much. But I tried. I started to sob as I forced every single cell in my body to heal Thane. When Adler realized what I was doing, He tried to stop me. You need to stop Luna. Achia's already dead. No, he isn't. I declared in denial. He isn't if you continue you're going to kill you and the only piece of Thane you have left. He referred to my child. But I knew if I tried just a little more, something could happen. If you're up there, moon goddess, please. My voice broke as tears consumed me. Please save him. He'll do anything. I rest my sobbing face on the less wounded shoulder as the moments passed and nothing happened. I had to face the facts. No one could be resurrected. Not even Thane, the great alpha of the Blood Moon pack. I gasped for air as I bawled my eyes out onto my dead mate's body. I felt something cold and wet splutter on the back of my neck. Drop after drop until suddenly it was pouring. The rain started to fall as I felt a movement beneath my hands. I raised my head and gasped at what I saw. It was the rain that shook me. It was the body. His wolf form had suddenly shifted under my palms from a werewolf to his human body. Adler removed his shirt and laid it over the naked waist. His still was beating, nor was he breathing. He was still dead, yet his body shifted back. I looked over at Anne, who gave me a confused expression before she looked up at the raining sky. I didn't know if it was a sign, or some miracle taking place. I wiped the tears off my face and placed my hands over the chest, right where his heart laid. I love you, I whispered into his ear as I tried one last time. I had to save my mate. I closed my eyes and rested my head in the crook of his neck, near to the shoulder that was shoot. I concentrated solely on Thane as saw him, my tears running onto his wound, my energy being transferred into his heart. You're not saving him on my watch, pumpkin. I heard a distant voice snarled. I looked up through my tears in the rain to see Jake, standing on the edge of the forest a few feet away from us. My eyes took in the irritation on his face, but before anyone could comprehend what was happening, he lifted his gun and pulled the trigger. How my breath caught in my throat as the massive pain of a bullet hitting me consumed my body. My eyes shifted down at my ripped shirt to see blood seeping out from the right side of my chest. My vision became blurry as I heard loud shouting around me in mass chaos. I didn't know what was happening around me or within me as I collapsed onto the ground. Jake shot me. There was no way I could save Thane now, and my energy was already depleted, therefore I couldn't save my life. Or my babies. I looked over at the body next to me as fresh tears sprung to my eyes and the rain poured over us, drenching our bodies. I could feel the pool of my own, warm, thick blood gather beneath me. My body felt weak. My breathing was labored. My eyes were closing. My soul was dying. I was dying beside Thane. Our child was dying because of Jake. I love you, I whispered to the moving and conscious body. All the energy faded out from me, and I could feel my heartbeat slowing down as I moved my hand to hold the lifeless one beside me. I placed my other hand over my stomach as a way to hold on to our little P. I was sorry I couldn't save them. I let them both down. I felt a certain calmness and serenity take over my body. It was as if the true meaning of peace finally found me. I could feel myself dying as the pain faded away. I would join Thane. My eyes closed and my heart slowed down. I felt something twitch in my palm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I took my last breath as darkness and death swallowed me whole. Chapter 36, Dead or Alive. My lungs felt the rush of air flowing into it as I suddenly felt every part of my body. It was as if my body had somehow disappeared and now I was suddenly reattached to it. However, I felt strange. I felt as if I was being pulled underwater and drowning. No matter how hard I thought, I couldn't move or open my eyes. A metaphorical anchor was weighing me down into the dark abyss and I couldn't see where I was going. My body wouldn't even allow me to fight my way through it. The weight was pressed against my chest, and even though I could feel my lungs working and I was breathing, the heavy sensation had me struggling to gather air into my lungs. The pressure of the weight crushed me as I continuously gasped for air. Suddenly a wave of pain washed over me and I was pulled further back into the darkness. A haziness found me as I felt myself surface back close to consciousness, but I wasn't quite out of the murky waters yet. My mind felt a ringing sensation, and it is distant noises and voices all jumbled together in a big blurb of pandemonium. I tried to untangle each piece of sound to unload the pressure of the racket going on in my head, but it was like trying to untangle the wires of a pair of earphones in the dark. No matter which end of the wire you pulled, it remained a tight knot, fighting a battle with my own mind. I finally distinguished each sound on its own. The first thing I heard was a beeping noise. Everything was very distant, but it sounded like a heart monitor. However, I couldn't be sure. The haziness of the darkness I was trapped in and the pressure on my lungs exhausted my senses. The beeping on the machine was irregular. The palpitations between each beat was much slower than it should have been for anyone. A sudden voice then cut through the air and immediately caught my attention. "Come back to me, baby." It sounded vaguely familiar, but my muddled mind couldn't place a face to the voice. But whoever it was made my heartbeat come to life. The voice was like music to my ears. I sensed within me a blossom of feelings. It was a strange sensation, but as the voice went on, I could hear the heart monitor pick up into a more steady rate. It was as if the voice was healing the heart. My attention shifted back to the voice as it went out. "My mother told me that you said you couldn't live without me." "Well, it's the same for me, Emery. I can't live without you." I heard the voice break, and a peculiar tenderness grew in my chest to comfort this person. Whatever brought me back? Safety too. It saved us both for a reason, and I need you to wake up, love. I need to hear your voice. I need to hold you in my arms. And I tried. I tried desperately hard to break through the surface and find this man, but the waves of darkness were tormenting me and pulling me further back into the emptiness. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Can you hear me? I heard in my mind. My heart skipped a beat at the sudden intrusion in my head. I even heard the sound echo through the dull space. Your heart skipped a beat. You can hear me, can't you? His voice had so much hope in it. I wanted to answer him, but I didn't know how. It was like figuring out how to solve a Rubik's Cube for the very first time. Like not knowing which way to turn the object to make all the colors match up. I didn't know which parts of my mind I had to connect to respond to this man. I wanted to yell to him that I'm in here. Though I wanted to wake up, but I couldn't. Just give me an answer, love. Please. Trying to shout that I could hear him, but failing miserably, made me frustrated, and my head felt like something was banging on it. The more he spoke, the closer I was to the surface, and I could practically see him, beyond my haziness and just beyond the dark, murky waters. It's like I can feel you inside of me, and I know that you're there, but somehow a part of me is missing. I need to see you awake and healthy to be complete, Emery. I need you. The pack needs you. His words struck a chord in me. The pack. The ritual. Jake and the hunters. And my mate. Thane. He was dead. He died in my arms, and I couldn't save him. What felt like a tsunami of a wave hit me and dragged my body underwater as something like an anxiety attack struck me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The current was too strong for me as it kept pulling me further into the darkness. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I heard the man scream. Shit. She's going into cardiac arrest. I heard another voice announce just as the wave succeeded in pulling me under. Strange tingles sparked along my right arm as I felt myself break free through the surface of the water. I finally felt myself take a much-needed breath. I felt alive and as if I've just woken up from a month's rest. Refreshing, but with that feeling of sickness and a lingering tiredness. My eyes were still shut tight, but I managed to pry them open, only to be blinded by the lights above. I screwed my eyes shut and gently peeled them back as the brightness made them water. I blinked away the few droplets that sprouted from my eyes until they adjusted to the brightness. Besides my eyes just watering, they felt rather dry and my throat felt scratchy. My gaze shifted to a figure on the right of me, and I was shocked to see Thane sitting on a chair beside me. Both his hands were wrapped around my right arm and his head was laid on the bed beside me, but he was fast asleep. I took the moment to look around the room and realized that we were in our room in the pack house. I had IV drips connected to me, as well as a heart monitor. Then I remembered hearing the beeping of the monitor and Thane speaking to me. He tried to reach me through our mind link while I was unconscious, but I wasn't able to answer him back. I couldn't believe he was in front of me, breathing and alive. I had no idea how it was possible. But there he laid, alive and resting, not wanting to waste another moment in seeing his face and seeing him alive and well. I pulled my hand out of his grasp only to be aware of how sore I felt. I brushed my hand through his hair a few times. At first I heard him make a sound of pure contentment before his body visibly froze in what I could only describe as shock. In a matter of seconds his head flew up and his chocolate brown eyes was fixated on me in disbelief. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, he whispered before pulling me into his arms. I groaned in agony at the sudden movement, and he quickly released me and looked completely worried. And so I shook my head at his apology and wrapped my arms around before pulling him back into the hug. My eyes cowled and held back the tears that were threatening to escape, so I let it go, tightening my grip around him. I vowed to never let him go from that point onward. If he had to train, I would be there. If he was in his office, I would be there. If he was in the bathroom, I would stand right outside the door. And if he had a battle to fight, I was going to be there right beside him. Why you're alive? I croaked out in relief. I am? All because of you, love. All because of you. I heard him repeat and felt something wet on my shoulder. I pulled back slightly to look at him only to see that he was crying. My big, tough alpha was crying. When I wiped his tears away, I realized how tired he looked, as if he hadn't slept in days. I wanted to speak more, but my throat felt terrible, scratchy like sandpaper. Our baby. I mind-linked him with trepidation and fear in my bones. HES fine. Healthy and with a strong heartbeat. He smiled and instantly put my mind at ease. Our little P was all right. Can you hand me a glass of water? I mind-linked him. He nodded before placing a kiss on my forehead and then poured me a glass from the jar that sat on the bedside table. But he used one hand while the other continued to hold on to me. Thane helped me sit up on the bed and I greedily accepted the glass of water from him, which helped soothe my throat a bit. I thought I lost you, I said with a raspy voice. But I'm here. We're both here. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He clarified. My eyebrows knitted in confusion. I saw you die, Thane. I felt my throat closing up from the intense emotions inside of me. You died in my hands and I never felt more helpless as I did then. I felt you leave me through our bond. You were completely gone. I sat there with your dead body as the minutes ticked by. That's because I did die, he said gravely. Then how are you here? I asked in confusion. He went silent for a moment, as I suppose he was thinking over his answer. Wait, this isn't like heaven or hell or something, is it? I pondered as I reached my hand out to his arm and pinched him. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The heck? That hurt a lot, love. I curled and held the small smile that played on my lips. Sorry. Just making sure this was real. His face transformed from one of pain into an adoring smile. In as real as you can get, love. Now tell me how you came back from the dead, because necrophilia isn't my thing. I wrinkled my nose in disgust. Thane placed a kiss on the back of my hand before he said, I'm alive and breathing because of you. That's not right, because I don't remember saving you. I mused. You didn't. He trailed off. Then how did you? I couldn't even articulate my question because it was hard to believe that we were alive. Especially Thane, the moon goddess. He informed. That's the best guess that I and anyone else have. So she exists. I said in awe. I think that question is a little redundant considering my species exists and me being alive. I just stared at him in shock. Tell me what made you think it was her. My mother said that you begged someone or something to bring me back and to take you instead. His eyebrow rose, unimpressed. I looked down guiltily but with no trace of regret. I couldn't save you. You have no idea how it felt with you dead and knowing that I could have saved your life. I mean, Healing people is my power, Thane. And I cowled even save you. He placed his finger under my chin and brought my face to his as he placed a gentle kiss on my lips. You did save me. If you hadn't asked the moon goddess to bring me back, the rain wouldn't have fell. The pack wouldn't have survived and we wouldn't be sitting here today. He placed gentle kisses all over my face. So she saved you for me. She saved me for us. The pack and our little pea. It was nothing short of a miracle. Not even Adler could explain how my heartbeat started back up. It was like the water in the rain healed my wounds, and your power may have even jump-started the process. No one has ever seen something like that happen. He grinned with pride. How did she do it? I wondered. He shook his head. I have no idea and you're not going to be able to figure it out either. What I do know is that the moon goddess never does anything without a reason, so we better stick around to pay back her debt. I'm not planning to let you go ever again. I vowed sincerely. He kissed my forehead. Neither am I. Especially after you almost died. I questioned, baffled. He nodded solemnly. Jake shot you but you didn't die. You were close enough to death but you passed out from the blood loss. Adler stopped the wound from bleeding before he rushed you back to Pack House and got the bullet out before stitching you back up. You went into a coma right after. And the second time, you went into cardiac arrest. His voice broke before he continued. I think when I tried to mind link you that it set it off. Luckily your powers had some time to heal which saved you and Adler made sure you were alright. I felt a pang in my chest at the broken expression. We survived the impossible. You're married to a werewolf. Anything is possible. I placed one of hands over my stomach. I even put our little pea through so much. I'll never forgive myself for putting him at risk. Trust me, our little one forgives you. He simply shrugged, not wanting to fight with him over that topic. I switched the conversation. After you got shot, I didn't think that I would ever see you alive again. Thane got off the chair and sat on the bed opposite of me. You don't ever have to think that again. I promised that I'd come back to you and here I am. I pulled him back in my arms since I just couldn't seem to get enough of his presence. I love you, I whispered into his ear. Thane pulled back and cupped my cheeks. I love you too. But if you ever and I mean never try to heal me again or bring me back from the dead, I will not speak to you ever again. Thane, no Emery. What you did that day was exactly what I told you not to do. You almost died because you stuck all your energy in trying to save me, and you cowed and heal yourself when you needed to. I can't live with that choice, love. I can't until more of you deciding my faith. He scolded me. I will decide your faith because it was your time, Thane. We just got married and you weren't leaving me and our son. And whether I tried to save you or not, you wouldn't speak to me either way. I prefer you alive and breathing and choosing to give me the silent treatment instead of laying lifeless and not having a choice. I said in frustration before I heard the heart monitor pick up its pace. Thane looked frightened at the sudden change in my heart rate and tried to derail the situation. You're right. Just calm down and relax for me, sweetheart. I could tell he wanted me to promise I wouldn't heal him again, but he gave in and I felt how scared he was, so I tried to control my breathing and relax. I know that I promised you that I wouldn't heal you anymore, but I can't live without you, Thane, and if you were in my shoes that day, you would all have done the same thing. I told him and I could see his smile as he placed his forehead against mine. I would do it over again anytime, even if I had to give myself up. Let's stop talking about your death before someone walks in and sees me crying. He joked and I immediately felt better. You sure this isn't a dream, right? Why do you ask? Because I still can't believe all three of us are here. The shock of that was still fresh within my mind. Thane placed a hand on my stomach. Adler and I were in complete confusion as to how our little boy was surviving on his own, but Adler said that it was most likely his alpha blood that kept him alive. There's also a chance that since HE's connected to you, your powers are connected to him and HE has been keeping himself alive while you recuperated. We didn't know and we still don't know how it's possible, but I'm not questioning it because you're both here. It was a day of miracles. I smiled proudly. Still mad at you for trying to heal me. He grumbled, playful. Yeah, but you love me anyways. I rolled my eyes at him. That I do. He pecked my lips as the door opened. Didn't I tell you to call for me as soon as she wakes up? I saw Dr. Adler grinning as he spotted me alive and well. You said you'd be back and I wanted some time alone with my wife. Thane winked at me. How are you feeling, Luna? Adler asked as he began to check all my vitals. To my agent extraordinaire, Nylin Nilbe. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I laughed. But good to be back with everyone. That's good to hear. I honestly don't know how the three of you survived 2 weeks ago, but you did. Last 2 weeks. I glanced at Thane and Adler in confusion. I was out for that long, and had me anxiously waiting to see you awake and healthy again. Yes, Thane sighed. My mind flooded with questions about what happened, but Adler had an entire page of medical questions to ask me and informed me about the baby's health before he left Thane and I alone. What happened, Jake? I asked, firstly. Archie is alive, Thane said angrily. And where is he? I asked anxiously. Heavily guarded and starving, I'm sure. Thane gave me a sinister smile. You haven't killed him yet? I inquired in surprise. No, I knew you would want to be there to make your peace and ask your questions before I did, he said grimly. Good, because I want to shoot him myself. I shrugged, unapologetic. You would have to fight me for the opportunity. Thane smirked. Well, see who can shoot a gun better. I winked because I knew for a fact that he never held a gun in his life. I have other plans for him than a short death. Then S' voice took on an eerie tone. When I thought you died, I wanted nothing more than to get revenge for what he took away from me. I shook my head at my vile thoughts. It's okay to feel that way, but she is the despicable person that wants nothing else but to see us all dead. Thane said as if he knew exactly what I thinking. Hell, would I saw how much of the pack he murdered. I longed to go down to the crypt and make him suffer and kill him with my bare hands. Then why didn't you? He brushed a few stray hairs out of my face before saying, Trust me, I wanted to, but I couldn't disrespect you like that. You're either Luna and has as much say in this situation as I do. That, and I couldn't leave you alone while you were still unconscious. I smiled appreciatively at him before a frown overtook my expression. Just how many of our pack died in the field? Then S' expression turned grave as I felt his agony and pain of losing some of our pack members through our mate bond. We lost 62 wolves. One of them was your friend Delilah. Delilah is dead. I couldn't believe it because it felt like just yesterday that we were all back at my wedding. Is Caroline okay? She's fine. So is Bailey. Lucas. My parents and everyone else in the pack. He tried to comfort me. And Bo? I questioned since I noticed he left his name out. Pretty weak, but he survived as well. He was the first to get shot, so Adler was able to get the bullet out and him off the field before the war started. I felt relieved by that revelation, but there was still a lingering pain for our lost pack members. I can't believe so many is gone. It's okay, love. They're all in a better place now. He pulled me into his arms. I want to go see him, I stated as wiped my straight hairs away and pulled back to look at Thane. Who, Bo? Thane asked in confusion. No. I want to go see Jake and take away what he took from everyone else in the pack. I reached over to pull the needle out of my hand before the S hand covered my own. He'll be there alive until we're ready for him, sweetheart. Right now, you need to rest and take care of yourself before you're able to go down there. He insisted, but he killed our family, and he'll pay for it. He'll make sure he does. Thane promised. Take some time and rest for yourself and the baby's sake. And for mine. I knew he was right, so I nodded. Jake will live for another day. Then another question popped into my head. Would let everyone in Fairburn notice their hunters are missing? Thane nodded. Some of the pack went into Fairburn and infused anyone who could have known the hunter's purpose of coming here, with a concoction to make them forget about everything that happened at least 24 hours before the war. The same potion we give the other girls on the night of the ritual so they forget what they see. That still wouldn't explain their disappearance to anyone. I pointed out. Jane took care of that. The elders know about us and they know about our agreement. We don't bother them and they don't bother us and all will be well. Since the hunters came onto our land and attacked us, The elders didn't have much to say on the situation besides tell everyone in town that the hunters went in search of the beast and must be gotten lost or killed by what had lingered in the woods. Which, as you know, isn't the first time something like this has happened. Thane explained, and they seemed to have found an answer for the entire situation. What about the woman that was feeding Jake information on werewolves? Did anyone find out if it was Abigail? It was Abigail. I saw age burn behind an S eyes as he said her name. Lucas went to Jake's house and caught her scent. It makes sense since she knows about the pack and she knew about my powers. She must be went to Fairburn after you kicked her out and fed Jake all the information to get back at us. I couldn't believe she was that despicable. But again it was Abigail, the man-eater. Did Lucas find her? He said the scent lingered around Jake's house, but she was there. They weren't able to track her down, but we believe she's with child and moved further up north. She must have left Fairburn when Jake came here. My eyes grew wide in shock. Pregnant. With Jake's child. We think it is, but we aren't sure. She's not going to bother us anymore though. Thane promised. How can you be so sure? I doubted him. Because she has a child to take care of now. That's if she even makes it alive through rogue territory. I felt a sudden anxiousness and fear in my bones. She may have been terrible to me, but her baby didn't do anything. I hope she's okay. Thane wrapped his arms around me. For what felt like the 10th time that day, we have no idea where she is. She ran away and there's nothing we can do to help her sweetheart, so try not to worry too much. There's just been enough deaths to last a lifetime. We stayed like that for a while. Wrapped in each other's arms until the door opened and revealed a group of people. Everyone entered the room. Bailey, Lucas, Caroline, a wounded beau. To my agent extraordinaire, Marianne Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Carson, Teddy, Thomas, and I was surprised to see Tate following behind them, and the heroes alive. Bailey squealed as she rushed to my side. Move over, Alpha. We want our turn with the Luna. Caroline shooed Thane away. Even though he moved from beside me, he stood not too far away and kept his eyes on me. He hasn't left your side since he woke up from death. Bailey whispered to me. I glanced over at him and saw how tired he looked, but a smile was graced upon his face as he watched us all. Everyone stayed a while and expressed how happy they were that I was alive and the baby was healthy. Tate explained that after she heard what happened here that she convinced her mate to bring her back until I woke up. I was grateful for everyone being there for me and I wanted to catch up with them all, but when Thane saw me yawning, he kicked everyone out of the room. Finally we're alone again. He sighed rather reluctant and left us. Come here. I shifted over to one side of the bed and left a space for Thane to lay next to me. What if I hurt you? He said, hesitating. You wouldn't. Just come here. I need you next to me. I gave him a puppy dog face and he quickly slipped into bed and I happily snuggled up next to him. I'm glad it was you that day under the blood moon, Emery. And I'm grateful that you were the scary wolf. I teased, but I meant every word. Now tell me how long you haven't slept for, since maybe the day of the war. He yawned. I had a few naps but nothing substantial. I scolded. I couldn't rest knowing that you were in a coma. I stayed by you every second of the day to keep an eye on you. Even when you went into cardiac arrest about a week ago. He mumbled into my ear. You know, I remember that. I looked up at him with a smile. I heard you that day. He gave me a confused expression, so I went on. When you mind-linked me, I heard you, Thane. You did? He asked in astonishment. I didn't. I wanted to answer you, but the darkness took me before I knew who was talking to me. Thane tightened his grip on me and I couldn't lie laid in his arms. In never letting anyone hurt you again.